Warm welcome to this lecture series on organizational behavior. We are in the 5th chapter, which is on attitudes. So this is going to be the brief outline of this chapter. We are going to define what is attitude and some of the key aspects of attitudes. We are also going to look at attitudes and related concepts like beliefs, ideology and things like that. We are also going to look at the characteristics of attitudes and how attitudes are formed and how attitudes can be measured. And we are going to look at important condition which is called cognitive dissonance. So we are going to look at that in detail. We are also going to look at how to change attitudes. And finally, how attitudes play an important role in workplace. So, like most of the words in psychology, we would have heard of this word attitude in our day-to-day conversation. Just spend some time and read this quote. So this quote mentions the importance of attitudes in life. I would request you to read about this person, Viktor E. Frankl. So he was a psychiatrist, Austrian psychiatrist, who lived during Second World War time. He was during the World War, he was put in concentration camp and he was tortured. His entire family, was tortured, and some of them died, and things like that happened. Very unfortunate things happened. When he came out, he wrote a book called The Man's Search for Meaning, which is a very famous book in psychology, and also it's famous among general public also. So he created a new approach called logotherapy, which means treating people or helping people through meaning or finding meaning in life. So attitudes are evaluative statement towards objects, people or events. So what are attitudes? Attitudes are nothing but mental statements we make about objects, people or events. Attitudes are important because attitudes are precursors for our behavior. In a way, how we behave depends on what kind of attitudes we have about that particular object, person or a event. So in very simple words, attitudes are what is there in our mind or what do we think about something else. It can be an object, people or a event. But the difference between other forms of thinking and attitude is attitudes are usually evaluative statements, which means they are judgmental statements. So it is usually for or against something or somebody. I'll give an example. When you think about the recent incident on COVID-19, okay, which many of us are undergoing and also would have underwent. If you're seeing this video later point in time, you would have undergone this experience of COVID. Okay, so when you think of this COVID-19 experience, what comes to your mind? Many you would be thinking a lot of things about that experience, and you would be feeling emotionally angry or stressed or depressed. You will be feeling, you will be also thinking about it in a very informative way. Like you must be thinking about it as why it happened, who caused it, is it the right way we managed it, and things like that. So event like COVID, we form many ideas about it, and some of the ideas are judgmental in nature. For example, you may think certain governments didn't handle it well. So this is the information and this is what you think about that particular event, COVID-19, and you would be thinking why they didn't handle it well, or certain countries they are responsible for it, or certain people are responsible for it, why they didn't handle it well, or why did they do it. Okay, all those ideas come to your mind. So this is what is attitude. You are looking at attitude in an unfavorable way, and people associated with COVID in an unfavorable way, and also you are emotionally charged about it. Okay, so in this entire COVID-19 corona incident, you must be thinking about many things about that incident, about people associated with it, about that particular virus itself, and you will be forming many ideas about it, and some of these ideas are very judgmental in nature. It is like positive, negative. When you say judgmental, ideas of good, bad, right, wrong, all those things, desirable, undesirable. So you would be looking at this COVID virus thing as undesirable, bad, it is unfortunate, and things like that. So this is what is attitude. So an incident, an associated people, or event or object, we form many attitudes about it. Another example can be, let's say you have a particular brand of mobile phone. Okay, so and that mobile phone, you have been using it for many years, and that particular brand, even your previous model was that particular brand. So your attitude towards that particular mobile brand, let's say you're using an iPhone. Okay, so your attitude towards iPhone would be positive. Similarly, let's say somebody else is using who has got a new product like a similar phone, but it's different brand, but they are not very happy with it because of some experience. Their attitude towards that particular brand will be negative. So this is what we call it attitude. Okay, so some of the key elements or some of the key ideas in this concept of attitude. First, there's a related term called values. Values and attitudes are closely related. We'll talk about what are values and how they are related to attitudes in the next slide. And next important issue or idea about this concept, attitude, is attitudes differ in terms of strength. Certain things we feel very strongly, certain things we don't feel very strongly. Okay, and when we feel about certain things very strongly, similar attitudes or attitudes about similar things come together and they become strong attitudes. Okay, for example, like I said, you got a particular product of a brand. Okay, you got a laptop of a certain brand, and you used it for a certain years, and you had bad experience with that particular laptop brand. And similarly, similar products of that particular brand also you had experiences which are not very good. Okay, so that particular brand, different products, you had different experiences. Some of the products which from the same brand you would have had positive experience, but usually what we do is attitudes or ideas which we form about different aspects of that particular brand or of that object or that event, we select only similar ideas together. So we tend to negate or reject ideas which don't synchronize with our majority of our ideas. Okay, so like I said, you've been using Apple products for many years. You've been using Apple phone, iPad, iPhone, their laptop and things like that. So you have a positive attitude towards that. But let's say sometimes some incidences you're not very happy. Usually we tend to reject those attitudes which may not be similar to what you have already formed. Okay, you are close to attitudes which are, or information which are against the already formed attitudes. So we tend to group all similar attitudes which means attitudes of the same type about a particular event, object or a person, and that becomes one strong kind of collection of attitudes. Okay, so this can be applicable to our experiences about other social groups also. Let's say, our prejudices, we tend to form opinion about certain social groups or certain people of certain background, those kind of attitudes, which many a times what we do is only when we encounter similar experiences, those experiences are remembered. Experiences which are not similar to what we have assumed it to be true, we tend to reject those experiences. Okay, so that is how strong attitudes are formed, and stronger the attitude, more difficult for us to bring in information or assimilate information which varies from our initial attitude. Okay, so that is how attitudes are very powerful, especially when similar attitudes come together. They form a huge powerful factor which decides the way we react. Okay, attitudes have three components. So when you say attitudes, when an attitude is formed, it has three components. The first component is cognitive component. Cognitive component means information related component. It may not necessarily be information, it can be belief, it can be opinion, it can be knowledge. So the difference between information is factual, the fact associated with that particular target, event, object or person. For example, like I said, your attitude about Apple product. Okay, so you would have had some information, let's say you are buying an iPhone or you are having an iPhone, you will know as a information this particular brand has a better camera or a better processor or better, so you have numbers, okay, which are very objective. Those things are, you cannot prove, there's nothing about proving, disproving, it is factual. Okay, the second element in cognitive is belief. Belief is you believe it to be true. Okay, it is very subjective in nature. For example, you believe Apple phones are very user friendly, or you believe they are designed to the perfection. Okay, so these things are subjective in nature. This understanding is subjective in nature, because one person may find that particular product to be beautiful, another person might find it to be not very beautiful. One person may find it very user friendly, another person may find it not very user friendly. So, but we believe that it's an information. So that is a belief. Belief is you believe this is what is true or this is what is not true. Okay. Opinion is your assumption about something. Okay. In fact, we'll look at each one of this in detail. So cognitive means mentally what you think. It is different from feeling and intention to behave in a certain way. Okay. So cognitive element is thinking element. So like I said about Apple phone, you may have certain beliefs, you will have certain information, you will have an opinion and things like that. So that is cognitive element. Affective element is emotional element or feeling element. Okay, you may get excited when you see that particular brand. You are like very attached to that brand of iPhone, Apple. So affective element involves your feeling towards that particular object, person or event. So like I said, in Corona or COVID-19 experience, we have certain emotional reaction to it or emotional response to it, which is fear, anxiety, stress, things like that. The third element is behavioral element. Behavioral element is intention element. Intention means you are prone to behave in a certain way, or you have the intention to behave in a certain way, which means the same iPhone example, Apple product example, you believe as a cognitive element, you believe that iPhone are the best in terms of their camera or processor, things like that. Affective element is you like iPhone. Behavioral element is there are more chances that you will either recommend this product to your friend. Let's say if your friend or a parent asks you which phone to buy, there are more chances that you will recommend this particular brand. Or for you also, if you're wanting to buy a new product like a laptop, there are more chances that you will buy a Apple laptop because your attitude in terms of cognitive and affective elements are positive. Okay, so behavioral element is your intention, which means chances that you will behave in a certain way because you have that attitude. Okay, so among these three components, affective components are very powerful because humans are usually feeling or emotion beings. So for us, many times what we feel about a certain product overrides what we think about it, what we believe about it, or what kind of information we seek, and also how we intend to behave. Okay, so affective component is one of the strongest among other two components. Another important aspect which I was supposed to mention is attitudes are always charged with emotions, and attitudes are usually or almost always judgmental in nature. If they are not judgmental, it is just information. For example, saying this particular brand of phone has this particular processor speed, which is an information, which is not attitude. Okay, instead you are saying this product has, or this mobile phone has this processor which is which has this much speed, which is like wonderful. Okay, which is like very good. Then it becomes attitude. You understand the difference. So let's say if I have to see IITs or IIT Hyderabad is 8th in ranking, in All India ranking of engineering, which is an information. But let's say if you're saying IIT Hyderabad is 8th rank among engineering institutes in India, which is a very good thing and the quality is very good. Okay, if you say that, then it becomes attitude. Why? Because quality is a very subjective term. So in cognitive element, you're bringing in belief and opinion, then it becomes attitude. And also when you say IITs are the best place to study, there is a certain element of emotion, which is a positive feeling towards it. And the behavioral element is there are more chances that you will aspire to get into IIT, or you will recommend someone to join IIT. Okay, so I hope you understood the three components of attitudes and how they interact with each other. Okay, so values are very similar to attitudes, but they are the core, or they are one level deeper than attitudes. Okay, so when I say one level deeper, they are more permanent in nature than attitudes. So values form the core, and those values in a way influence the attitudes. So what are values? You would have also heard of this term, values. So what are values? In very simple words, values are what we value, or what we think are important for our life, or what we think are good, or what we think are desirable to achieve. Okay, so remember this example. Let's say you value honesty. Okay, which means you think honesty is the most important thing in life, and you also believe with honesty you can be successful in life. Okay, so honesty becomes a value. Similarly, money or materialistic value. So some people think money is more important, so you value money. Okay, money becomes a value, or materialistic things become a value. or loyalty. If you believe loyalty is very important in life, it is very desirable, you use loyalty as a criteria to measure success or failure or good bad, then loyalty becomes a value for you. Okay, so values, like I said, are core for attitudes. Why? Because based on our values we judge what is right, what is wrong, what is good, what is bad. Okay, so for example, your value is simplicity. Okay, you value simplicity and utility, so you don't think about brand name, brand image, but you value it. Whatever product I use, it should be simple and it should not cost much. It should serve as basic functionality. Okay, your value is simplicity. Okay, and also frugality. Frugality means not spending more and conserving resources. So if that is your value, using that value you will evaluate products. Let's say there are 10 different mobile phones. Okay, and you have to make a choice of buying a mobile phone. So you will use this value, or this is your value system, that will influence your way you look at each of those 10 different mobile phone brands. So I hope I'm making sense. Okay, so using our values we set standards for competence and morality. Competence means to define success. Okay, for example, if I value honesty and hard work, I will use that as a benchmark to see someone as successful person or not, or even the same benchmark for me, whether to define myself as a successful person or not. Similarly, if I use honesty as a standard, what is morality means what is good and bad. I will use honesty to look at a behavior and judge it as good or bad. Let's say somebody is standing in a queue, there's a long queue, someone like lies and enters into the queue and saves time. So if you value honesty, you will think this person is a bad person. Let's say if you value smartness, or if you value goal orientation, then you will say, see, this person is a smart person, he knows how to break the queue. Okay, so we use values to judge success and failure and good and bad. So how it is connected to attitude? Like I said, whenever new information comes or new when you encounter something new, we use these values to judge where to put it. Okay, whether to put it in a positive side or a negative side. So there are like different compartments within us. So using our values, we compartmentalize our experiences, and those experiences we attach a certain attitude. Okay, so like I said, values are core, so that's why they are fewer in number. But attitudes are more temporary in nature. Attitudes are more, one day you will think, again, attitudes are relatively stable, but unlike values, they can be changed. But values, it takes a lot of time to change. For example, if you believe honesty is the best principle in life, you will be a honest person forever. It takes a lot of time to change somebody's values. But attitudes, with information, newer information, with some persuasion, you can change attitudes. Values are fewer in number. Since they are core, they are difficult to change. And values are also very generic in nature, whereas attitudes are object specific, situation specific, or person specific. Values are more general in terms of this is what I want from life, or this is what I consider to be desirable for life. Okay, things like that. How do we acquire values? We acquire values through our experiences, early life experiences, especially significant others. For example, when you're growing up, what kind of things are taught by your parents to you, what kind of experiences you underwent. For example, from childhood you have seen that honesty and hard work leads to success. You believe honesty is an important value. On the other hand, you grew up in an environment where you saw no, money is important or power is more important. People with power, they are successful. and that is what you saw in the early childhood, you will feel, or your values, those things will become your values. Like I said, values are very permanent in nature and we resist change. Like I said, if you believe to the core that something is very important in your life, it will take a lot of time and effort to change that core value. For example, like I said, if family values are more important to you, if you think relationships are more important, all your decisions and the way you look at things will be based on that particular value system, and it is very tough to change you or make you a person of a different value system. So like I said, values are the most central to core of a person, and they influence how we form attitudes. So I'll stop here. We would look at what are the other related concepts to value to attitudes in the next lecture. Till then, take care.